Welcome to ViviTalks. I'm Vivienne Aerts. Join me in celebrating 100 talented female musicians from my last album, type of thing. Empowering female cacao farmers in Congo's Virunga State Park and restoring the rainforest. Delve into the musical journeys, creative processes, and unique perspectives of these talented women that were involved in the making of this album. Today I'm talking to Anna Litvinenko, classical cellist with roots and presence in Europe, Latin America, and the US. Anna Litvinenko has captured the attention of audiences in Europe and the Americas. Since an early age, her talent and dedication gave rise to regular performances as a soloist and chamber musician, sharing the stage with artists of great renown and performing in many of the world's greatest concert halls. Anna is a graduate of the Juilliard School, the Royal College in London, and the Koninklijk Conservatorium in The Hague, and she is currently based in the Netherlands. She is an active early musician and improviser and a member of Kalea and Chekhov Trio. Listen to our conversation as we dive into Anna's roots, how she moved to Europe, and her current work with the Kalea Trio.
Well, welcome to my official podcast, Anna. I'm so excited to have you here and to be able to catch up. Yeah, that's very fun. But I love to first hear, where you're from and what do you do, and what's your story?
Well, I am Anna, and I am part Ukrainian, part Cuban, raised in Miami. So I was born in Ukraine, but I was a product of I guess what you would call the Soviet Union's Erasmus, I guess, between like Cuba and the Soviet Union. So my mother was a pianist and she went to study in Ukraine, and there she met my father, and eventually when I was born we moved to Miami. So I was raised in quite a culturally diverse place. I mean, there's people from all over Latin America in Miami. Obviously, then there's and from other places in Europe as well, but I guess the predominant language you hear is Spanish. And then of course I had the mix of the Cuban and the Ukrainian, so all culturally very quite different. And both my parents are musicians, so I was involved in classical music since a very early age. First started on piano with my mom, and then with my dad a year later, like around age 5, and kind of I never thought I would do anything else but be a musician, because it's what I had seen around me growing up, and I pursued that dream, and I ended up studying at Juilliard for my bachelor's, and then I was always very curious about what Europe would be like. So, because I know that there's differences between the two continents and how people play music and receive music, and so I really wanted to have that experience, and I ended up in London, where I studied at the Royal College, and from there as well I wanted more, and I applied for a Fulbright grant to study improvisation in The Hague, and then so that led me to the Netherlands, and there I've stayed. I've been kind of I stayed on the classical route, but also got into early music. So I've been developing that kind of career path, and also improvisation is part of my life as well. I have an improvisation ensemble, and it's kind of the thing that I'm, I guess, most interested now, and just to kind of continue exploring. I feel like there's still so much for me to discover, and I just need more experience in it. So that's kind of my kind of big project for the next chunk of time. So I'm involved in classical music, chamber, solo, and Baroque and improv, and yeah, so that's kind of the
Awesome.
musical part of
Yeah.
me, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we connected through the Fulbright network, right? I think that was it a few years ago, and we met up in the Netherlands when I was there, and yeah. So you're
Yeah,
you're
it was. I
dating in
mean,
the Netherlands, and I'm here.
it's such a beautiful place. I was shocked. It's such a beautiful house you have.
It's really small, and but it's no,
Very
we love it.
cozy. Yeah.
Yeah. Please describe a little bit about your creative process. I know you write a little bit too, right? And you engage in this experimental. How do you approach this like creation process?
Well, for me, it has always come from improvisation, I think. I mean, just trying different ideas, and then if you think that something really needs to be kind of developed and in like in a way that you kind of want it fixed, that you kind of really like how something sounds. And I think that's how things have developed for me whenever I've written. At the moment, I guess I'm not as much involved in writing, unless with my ensemble, we have done a lot of that together, and that has come from improvisation as well. Like we record every session that we have, and then if we're like when we've worked with a poet in the past, like we've worked with all the ideas of the poetry and then do different runs of improv based on the text, and then we've listened back and say, oh, this is great, how could we incorporate this, or how could we develop on this, or and then that's how our process as a group has been. But yeah, always starting from that from that place of improvisation, which is also difficult because oftentimes like those moments that we really like are a result of something that comes before. So it's sometimes difficult to take that particular piece and just, make something completely new out of it. And sometimes it doesn't work in the same way. We've tried to like replicate our improvisations and like transcribe them, and yeah, we sat down with paper trying to like notate all these sounds, and sometimes it's impossible. And kind of coming to terms with that we have to kind of separate a bit, have to let go of what happened in the moment, and that's it. I guess that's the beauty of improvisation. But for whenever we've written together, it has been a lot of that just collaborative kind of like, oh, I like the sound, I like that sound, how can we make it work? Oh, what if we change that note and make it into that, and how does that? So that's kind of the group process. And solo process is a bit different, but I'm a little bit more nitpicky and I can spend hours on on the figuration of a note and how to record and how to make it work. But I haven't had as much time with that in this past years. It was more a little earlier on. I was more of a student when I took composition classes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that group. Who's in there? I mean, it's all strings?
No, we have a flute player. Her name is Katie MacDonald. She lives in the UK, in London. And Beatriz Rola, who's a Portuguese violinist, who we studied in London together. So we met there, and now we're doing a trio long distance, which is, as you can imagine, difficult. But we always make time to get together and do projects, and yeah. And we all come from a similar background of classical music. But for example, the violinist is really much into folk, and she's taken percussion classes, and she's also in an environment of jazz and like theater and stuff. And the flutist also has had other experiences with either jazz or just free improv and all that. So it's kind of and we all have very different cultural backgrounds, so we listen to very different things. So I think we always bring brings different stuff to the mix, and I think that's what makes it quite interesting. Also, we sometimes clash, of course, in terms of taste and like how we want something to go. But I mean, it's also like really fun process to do, and hard. I think it's like hard to also have an equal say on everything, because everybody's personal everybody's taste gets in the way, and our egos too and everything. but I think it's a really beautiful process also, and you learn so much about yourself too along the way, and learn to let go and to accept and get new ideas and grow. I think it's the most beautiful thing about the group, I think. So how much you grow with those experiences.
Very cool. Awesome. I'd love to hear about a significant moment when your music had an impact on somebody's life, or
in somebody's life. Whoa.
I mean, maybe not our. I mean, it sounds very dramatic, but do you remember a moment where, your music had an impact?
Actually, recently I had a performance with my other trio, which is a classical ensemble. It's a piano trio. We performed in a church in Leuven, and we were playing, I can't remember, I think it was a Schubert trio. And after the concert, of course, we stayed and talked to the audience, and there was a young couple about around my age, and my first question to them was like, what are you doing here? Like, how did you find out about this concert? I mean, it's like a Sunday morning. What do you like?
There's
I guess
only old people here. What are you doing?
No, but it is a thing with it's sometimes a concern with classical music, especially. It doesn't attract as much as the younger audiences, and then this couple was there, and I started talking to them, and then they were actually I think Colombian or Mexican. I can't remember. And they were students. They were PhD students at the university, and I asked them, what are you doing here, and how did you find out? And they said, well, actually we really love classical music, and we just look online to see what's going on in the city, and we like to, I'm like, wow, but how did you get into it? He's like, well, I played a little guitar and blah, blah, and this and that, and then but they told me that they were so moved by the concert that it was like an overwhelming experience for them, that they even like cried at one point, because like what they heard is like, maybe that, the cello was playing a melody, and then the violinist started, finished that melody, and then the pianist said something else, and then they didn't even have time to process like the first thing that happened, and then it's already going to the next thing, and then it was just like this. And they were just talking about how much it moved them, that they even cried, and I was like, what? People understand what's going on? Like, it's just like that. And obviously it's music, and it's like it touches people, but it's like, and it I guess like when I hear those stories, I guess it gives me hope, or it just gives me like so much happiness, because it's like, great, like, that's why I'm doing this, because it, all you need to do is listen. I think you need to just be present and like listen to what's going on. I think that's the main thing with especially with classical music, something that it's not, it takes a little time to for you to understand the language, and it's a language. I mean, you need to kind of give it its attention, and some things take a little longer to process, and you just need to have that kind of you have to be able to receive it, and anyway, so that was like, I was so touched by that, and it made me so happy because, like, yeah, to be able to share that with someone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about education. Do you sometimes you teach or not a
Yeah.
lot?
Well, I teach theory and solfege to, yeah, I do. I've been doing that for the past 3 years, and
Mhm.
and I really like that. I have a lot of fun with it. And I have one cello student now, kind of starting from scratch, and that's been also really, really interesting for me. Yeah, kind of how to introduce this language to children in a way that's
Mm.
positive as well, and that I guess where they can find themselves within that, as opposed, I guess, because a lot of us with the classical training have had a bit like traumatic experiences with music, and because of how strict, or how it requires so much practice and so much, when you're a child you don't want to do that. And so yeah, it really helps me, um it helps me try to see things in different ways, and try to get the students to understand things in a way that you know maybe I understand in one way, but I have to get them to see it from a different perspective for them to understand the concepts. And yeah, and just I think my main point is for them to enjoy music and to kind of understand the language, but it's a hard thing to do with balancing that pressure, and well, not pressure, but that kind of wanting them to practice and be engaged, and not forcing them to do it. And yeah.
You think education, music education, is changing? Because you were saying a lot of us classical musicians have suffered because there's so many strict, right? There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that, I mean, you can be strict and constructive, but I think a lot of my colleagues have experienced destructive feedback and things that don't help them with their confidence. And I just think people developing stage fright, and developing all these like sense of like not being able to accomplish their dreams, or so I think that is changing. I've seen a lot of I've seen that, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I, at least at the university level, the like higher education level, I think I do see that. And I don't know as much I think the very important part is like when you're young. I think that's kind of a point where it's like invaluable to have to have someone with the right guidance, and someone that like really, I mean, supports you, and makes you feel like you can do it as well, and while still being making you do your best. But I think it's just such a hard thing, but I think it is changing overall. Yeah. I mean, I'm not so much in the education field, and like I'm taking courses, and I'm not in the I haven't taken like university level courses or anything, so I don't know. But I think from the people, my colleagues that are teaching, and like I see differences. So yeah.
Have you felt that pressure yourself too?
Yeah. yeah, for sure. It was growing up was a bit difficult, I guess. But and yeah, you encounter sometimes feedback that is just really doesn't help you go forward, and only makes you go inward. And like even when I was older, when I was already in my 20s, early 20s, I remember experiencing some things that I maybe wish I didn't hear. I wish because it kind of it can stop you for a little bit from like really blooming and from like but it's also things that I guess are part of the process. I think, I mean, the arts are so difficult. I mean, because you kind of need that feedback to go forward. But then, I mean, everything's not roses, and like you do need feedback. It's just how, yeah, hearing it in a way that helps you.
How it's been delivered, right? Yeah, constructive. Yeah. So my project is all about women, so I'd love to learn a little bit about your opinion on being a woman as a musician. Have you faced any biases, and how do you challenge those?
I don't know if I've faced so much of that. Yeah, not I don't, at a professional level, I don't think I have faced that. I think maybe perhaps in the sense that I'm not always as assertive, or I guess I think it's maybe more of a personality thing, that sometimes you feel like you can be stepped all over, but like I think, but it's also a thing of perhaps women not being taught from an early age to stand up for themselves. I think maybe that might be part of it. So I think in the education, I mean, just kind of like growing up, if women are just feeling more empowered and like that their opinions are valid, and like from a young age, if you feel that, I think that kind of helps everything. And I guess I was a very shy girl, and I always because of my surroundings and maybe growing up in a more machista culture, I also, a little more of that. But I think for music, for my playing, I felt I didn't suffer so much of that. I think it was perhaps on the social part of that, perhaps in professional contexts. Also because I tend to like to hear other people's opinions, and like it doesn't have to be my way always, or I'm open, and I want people to also feel good around me, so I think that's, which is a personality thing, like wanting for everybody's opinion to be heard, and coming to an agreement or something. And so maybe I felt like maybe treated more like that because I'm more like that, then maybe it's because somebody thinks I don't have an opinion, or because I don't have or that I don't feel so solid about the thing we're talking about. And I think it might be that. And again, but coming from that kind of maybe more of that education growing up, but it's something that I think I'm learning how to do, and just being assertive doesn't mean being mean, doesn't mean being a bad person. It's just, and I think something maybe men have more, it might come easier to them because of the way that society has taught, us to be. So, but yeah.
Yes, it's about taking a role. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a complicated question. Maybe if I go like more deeply into it, maybe I can find some. Yeah, but I guess also I'm always kind of like thinking like have the benefit of the doubt and always think, oh no, it's probably because of my personality, and I like to be nice, and then I don't like to think of it, oh, I'm a woman, so I'm being my opinions are not taken as seriously, but I know it.
Mhm.
Yeah, being assertive, I think, is also something that's
Yeah.
very useful. And in this field where sometimes things are difficult, or can be difficult.
Yeah. So what advice would you give like young musicians that are just starting out their music and they want to pursue music? What would you advise? What's an important lesson that you got?
Follow your gut. Yeah, I think, and do what you want to do. I think always accept criticism. Always be receptive to that, but be your own judge of yeah. Don't depend on anybody else. I think you're not going to be happy unless you do it the way you want to do it. And if that means a catastrophe at some point, so, but you did it because you wanted to, as opposed to following somebody else's wishes and then ending up somewhere where you didn't want to, and it will never be a catastrophe. I mean, you will always find your way if you follow kind of what's calling within.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a practice routine, or is it like, yeah, how do you warm up, or do you have like similar exercise or changing exercises, or?
Yeah, I like to do yoga before I practice. Yeah, I've 2 years ago I started doing yoga, and I think it really changed my life with music as well. Yeah, I just feel like it's allowed me to concentrate so much more. And also, I mean, I think it just also helps build strength that you need, especially for playing an instrument, so that your little muscles are, relaxed, and then you let the big muscles, like in your shoulders, and kind of do the work. I think it's helped my concentration, and I think I feel like I'm more relaxed when I'm in a tense situation, or something that could be tense. I feel like I take it with much more ease. So in the morning, like ideally, if I have the time to do it, I'd like to do half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour of yoga, and then maybe have breakfast and coffee, or it could just be coffee, and then go, and then start playing. It depends on how much time I have to do stuff. But before I play, if I only have 5 minutes, I'd rather warm up by doing stretches, or warming up the body by something physical, because I'm very conscious of injuries and all that stuff. So I just want to make sure that the body's awake and ready to play. And you're going to play. That's a much better way to warm up than to do a scale. So, yeah. So that's kind of like part of my routine, and depending on what I'm practicing for, ideally I could also do like my ideal warm up when I have time is to practice harmony, to doing whatever I'm working on in the moment, and then it's a great way to just improvise something, even if it's just 2 minutes, like you just kind of waking up your imagination, your senses, and I think you'll practice with more ease than if you're just, I have to learn this thing, so I'm just going to go straight into that thing. And obviously when you're stressed, it's a little harder to give yourself that time, but yeah, that's kind of. And I take breaks. Yeah, I take breaks. Yeah, definitely. I try to, like, if I'm feeling good, like I like to do like 45 minutes and walk around a little bit, stretch, eat a banana, I don't know, then go back to it, and then a lot of that. Even if I'm pressed for time, I try not to do too much, because your brain can't concentrate so well anyway after so long. Like I think you work so much better when you take breaks. So
yeah. How do you navigate the balance between staying true to your artistic vision and the things you really love and meeting commercial expectations, or the music business part of it, or doing gigs that bring in money?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've been trying to just do the things I really like at the moment. And great. It's like, but I know, I mean, we've all done a lot of gigs that we really hated, and then we say it's the last time we're gonna do it. And yeah, I mean, if you really need the money, then yeah, you just say, listen, this is what it is. It's fine. It's just 2 hours of my life. No worries. So then you might just do it, and then you have time, or it might be something even more steady, but it gives you an income that gives you the stability to do other things that you really, really like. I mean, obviously everything that you do can't be like your lifetime projects. I mean, you might have like one thing that's like your dream, and then you're doing, and then you have other things that help you kind of financially with that. But in terms of maybe something that more extreme is like you're doing something that you don't really believe in. Is that what kind of, yeah, I think that's a harder thing. Like I said, I've been trying to just mainly do the things that I know I'm gonna enjoy, or at least that I can find pleasure in, and that I and even if those things that I get at, that I've been asked to do, that are not my artistically, or not, is not like if I know that there's going to be good people, and like it's just going to be it might be a nice time, you might be like a bit frustrated inside, and it's okay. I mean, I guess you have to really judge for yourself. Is this something that I need now? Is if I'm busy with other projects that are better, and I'd rather know, then it's not worth it. If it's it's a week of I guess you have to. I really try to be like true to myself. Like, is it worth it? Does this mean right. Is it worth it for me? And yeah, the whole not, especially not being not being true to your artistic values. I think also, like, if it's a hard question if it's like a high, like something with high what's the word, if it's like high profile, I guess. If it's something high profile, like, or like if you're in a large ensemble, you might not care as much, because like, well, it's not my name that's being thrown out there, but if it's something that like it's branded with your name, then maybe that's, I mean, that's the thing. I think you have to kind of you know best what you're willing to do. Yes.
Right.
I prefer not to do things I don't like, but because then I get really frustrated inside, and it's not good.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the music business? You are getting your own gigs and arranging grants for that, and
music business. I'm not very good at the business side of things. But I've been kind of called to do a lot of different things usually, like with usually with one of my groups, my one of my trios, kind of, that are based in the Netherlands, and they're the girls are also Dutch speaking, so they kind of are in charge of sending out proposals for concerts, for like in small concert series. So that's kind of like we all collaborate on the writing the texts and writing stuff, and then they send them out to the contacts. I think that's one way that I've also done that with other groups, and sometimes you get 0 responses because no one reads your messages. But So that's kind of the frustrating thing with like personal projects. With personal projects, you have to be kind of, you have to, I think you have to go down the grant route, or it just takes a lot, because you just kind of want to do your project. That's a beautiful project, and you hope that, but you have to kind of be proactive about it. And I think you need to have the right support. I think all the people in your group need to have that same proactiveness with it, because if you're alone kind of driving the boat, sailing the boat is really hard. So I think the music business is hard for personal things, and then I guess I've had work just from word of mouth. I think that's kind of the best. Or like I play in a festival, and then somebody then invites me for another one, and then they invite me for another concert, and that's how it's always worked for me. Or if you audition for something, and then through there kind of, but it's
right.
Yeah, that's kind of how it's been in my circles. And then I have occasionally written a grant, but it's hard. Like I think you need to have like the right support around you. Like if it's a collective project, like if it's something that's not just you, or you have to. Yeah, you have to have a lot of clarity on, especially like the whole budgeting and all that stuff. Like it's still kind of gibberish to me. So I can, because for me, if it's something important, I'm going to try to make it happen no matter what. But then it's so, but I know that with formal things and like business, like things don't work that way. So I think that's something I definitely struggle with, and that my groups struggle with, because I think in like the ones that are, my groups that are more like important projects, it's like I think all of us are kind of like, oh, we want to do beautiful things, but we don't know how to make it happen financially. So a lot of times, especially with my improv group, like I don't think we've been paid once to do anything. Like we always just, but we love what we do, and yeah. So, but that is something I think has to change, and this world. I mean, you have to, if you want to do something with those things, you have to learn how to write those grants and make yourself public.
Yeah. Can you tell a bit more about you talked about you're constantly juggling between different musical scenes, with the early music and then the contemporary, and then to the improvisation and all the different musics you've been. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah. It's fun. It's great. It's like, from one day I'm playing the Matthew Passion, and then the next day I'm improvising really experimental weird stuff, and then and then after that I'm playing a chamber music, and it's just it can be like, I mean, it's great because you really love everything that you're doing at the moment, because it's so different that it's like, oh God, I haven't done this in months. This is great. Or I've been in Baroque world for a whole month. It's so nice to hear this like really like crazy dissonances and like and just doing weird stuff with your instruments, and so it's like, and then I think what I love about it too is that I get to influence like the other thing as well, like I can come in with the ideas from one thing that, I learned this really cool technique. Why don't we use it in this context? Or, what, and like that. So I think that's, it gives you more perspective too, I guess. Cause like, I think, I mean, it's a sword with two, double-edged sword. Is that the right term? Or a coin with two heads, I guess, like, it's like you would like to, be very concentrated on one thing, and to be the expert in that one thing. You'd be like the best expert in this one thing, but then but when you're doing so many things, it's you can't dedicate all your energy into that one thing, so then you might not be as proficient, and you might not know as much about this stuff as maybe other people that perhaps dedicate more of their lives to that. And so I think that's one of the things that sometimes makes me, or has made me feel in the past a bit, has made me feel maybe not good enough, or that, oh man, yeah, I should investigate more about this, or I had to get more, I had to practice more scales, or I had to do this, oh yeah, I haven't just, but there's just too many things to do. So I mean, I think for me, I think I prefer having, I mean, it's not that I'm terrible at all of them either. I mean, I'm proficient in the different areas, I think, but and there's areas that I'm I feel more confident in, for sure. I feel like the thing that I've been doing most of my life is, I mean, chamber music and classical music is definitely my biggest forte, because I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. But but I think there's still I think I like this kind of more broader perspective thing for me. And yeah, and hopefully kind of keep extending also. So
and the contemporary techniques, you're using your instrument totally different, right? Do you also use electronics, or do you like to detune the keys, or like
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that actually I performed a piece by a Korean composer, and yeah, her cello concerto for cello and voice, concerto for voice and cello and orchestra, chamber orchestra, and had amazing techniques. And like, it was just like, I've used, and I brought them into my improvisation, things that I had never tried before. I mean, yes, of course I had done a lot of detuning and detuning, playing with, but that's kind of not, I mean, that was also done, hundreds of years ago, perhaps not in really crazy ways, but detuning the instrument to get other sonorities, other resonances, other harmonics and everything, that's quite common. I think the more some more drastic things are using the bow in different ways, like you really with getting it's hard to explain without demonstrating, but with the wood of the bow, for example, like you can get when you tap the strings, you get also these like very you get these really high pitches, and they change, and like, I mean, you get a lot of really cool textures, and then that or like you can get like mortar sounds, or you can get like just a lot of effects that you can use for to do something quite scenic. Yeah, there's touching the instrument, tapping the instrument, rubbing the instrument, getting like that kind of sound, all sorts of stuff. People have played with not flashcards, but game cards, like plucking with that. People put like some pins also on the instrument, so that also gets really
different overtones.
Yeah, really cool overtones. And electronics, I haven't worked as much with electronics as I would have as I would like. I want to start with that more. My partner is an electronics person, so we said we would experiment soon, because I'd like to start using like loop pedals, and like that thing for improvisation is fantastic. Also for practicing is fantastic, and just to see all the possibilities with them. Yeah.
And these techniques, people write them down. Like, how do you know that that's what's been called on? Or they use lyrics, or they use like scribbles, or?
Yeah, there's different ways. I think there's some standard extended techniques that people that have already come into like the regular the composer's language that I guess you probably learn in composition class. But I guess composers are also invited to experiment themselves and create their own notation for it. Like if they want, like I remember playing a piece when I was first getting into like the contemporary scene, like I was like, huh? There was so much information because it was written by like okay, you needed it was there you'd be given written a written explanation of what you need to do, and then that would be like
a paragraph.
But then also above
documents,
they have this thing, and then they would sometimes like make the notes look darker, which means that you need to have more pressure on the bow, and then if they're lighter, it has to be less pressure, and then they write like other things that say that you need to be at the bridge, and then while you tap here, and it's like it's so confusing, like looking at these modern scores, like, you're just like, oh my god. And a lot of composers, like they create their own keys, like their own kind of symbols for things, like if they think that this is more visually better for the performer, then, but you obviously have to learn the language of that composer. And yeah, I think yeah, there's things that just is I've gotten scores and I'm like, I don't know what this means. And sometimes it's not like one concrete thing, or it's not, it's like, you know, you just need to make white noise. However you make it, just make it, you know. So then you experiment more on your instrument that sounds like white noise, and yeah. So, and some things like what goes my improv group, if we give certain extended techniques like fun names, like there's one thing we call wish wash, which is kind of like just the bow going up and down the string going. So I don't know. So yeah, so you just create fun symbols for it as well, or names.
Nice, very cool. Last question: are there any upcoming projects or stuff you're excited about for the future? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, first, I have really I've had a great opportunity come up. I'm going to be performing with the radio orchestra of Vienna as a soloist. Yeah, so in a couple of weeks. So yeah, a piece by Julius Berger, who's a Jewish Viennese composer who fled during the war, and he lived in New York for the rest of his life. So he was yeah, he wrote this piece in the 30s, and then he didn't hear it until until the 90s. So it was and there's one recording of it only, and now so they're dedicating a whole evening to his music, and so that's like exciting. And then I just have after that just nonstop different things. So between like a contemporary music festival, and then a chamber music festival, and then just my own chamber music, and then Baroque World again, and then all that until mid-October. So yeah, a combination of things, and so it's all great. I'm really happy. And what for the future, I think I just want to be doing again more of the things I love, and just more and more of that. And I think it'd be great if I could find a way for improv, for those improv ensembles that I for the one that I have, and anything else that I get involved in, maybe takes more of my time, and it takes more time on my calendar, the yearly calendar. I think it's like it's something that's quite important for me now, and yeah, and just a little bit more of everything that I love already. So that's kind of
awesome.
Goal.
Well, they can find you on Instagram, right? And on your website, which I will put in the description. And yeah, so great to talk to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for being part of my project. I mean,
oh, so beautiful. I really enjoy, and the result is so beautiful, really. And I love putting, I mean, the one that I recorded, I mean, I just put it on loop because it's just so it's really, really beautiful. The video, the music video of it too is like spectacular. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for listening and for making this happen. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm in Europe. We should play make sounds and stuff. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Great.
yeah, wishing you luck with everything. And yeah, if I'd love to go to New York at some point soon. If I'm in town, I'll let you know.
Keep in touch.
Likewise, and yeah, big hugs to you both. Yeah, yes.
Bye.
As I conclude this episode of ViviTalks, I want to express my sincere gratitude for joining me in this musical journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and experiences of the incredible female musicians on my album. To stay updated on our latest episodes, subscribe to ViviTalks on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on social media through Vivienne, and please check out my album Type of Thing, a musical exchange featuring 100 female musicians to empower female cacao farmers of Virunga State Park in Congo. It's about more than just music. It's about making a positive impact in the world. Your support is part of that journey, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, keep celebrating the power of music, and let's continue to amplify the voices of remarkable women in the industry. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep the music flowing. With love and gratitude. Till soon.